Hey everyone. Today I thought I would walk you all through my comic book collection, which is mostly just trade paperbacks that I've collected over the years. So most of these are decades old. These were mostly comic books that I collected back in the 90s. So there are like a lot of Vertigo titles, a lot of Sandman, and some independent titles, because that's kind of what I was into. And this collection is actually, my husband and I actually consolidated this collection because we were, when we met, we realized we were both into the same sorts of things. So we had a lot of doubles of things, so we kind of consolidated our collection. So I'm not exactly sure which of the trade paperbacks are his and which ones are mine. So if we ever get divorced, I don't know how we're going to split up our comic books. It'll be a bloodbath. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So the first set I'm gonna go through is my Sandman collection. So if you're not familiar with Sandman, it was a comic book series that came out, I believe the first issue came out in 1988, if I'm not mistaken. And it continued, I don't know how many years, but many years into the 90s. I don't think any more have been produced. I think the last trade paperback I have is actually something that was recently published. So the series was written by Neil Gaiman. If you're not familiar with Neil Gaiman, he writes a lot of things. So currently there are a few TV series that are out based on books that he's written. So American Gods is one of them, and what was the other one? Good Omens is another. So those two TV series are either out or are coming out. So Neil Gaiman wrote those. He wrote Coraline, and a children's movie is based off of that book. He wrote Stardust, and a movie is based off of that. I have the trade paperbacks of Stardust, but I think it was also put into like a novel as well. So that's another movie that was based off of something that he wrote. So he's very prolific and very popular, and the Sandman is pretty much the first his first writings that became popular. So this is the first trade paperback, and I think it features the first 8 comics that are in the series. So they're all written by Neil Gaiman, and the covers are all designed by... That's going to drive me nuts. I know this name. It'll come to me. Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean, sorry. So all the covers are designed by Dave McKean. So he designs some really cool, he does really cool art, and it's all, what's the word? He sets all these up physically, these images, and takes photos or something of them. It's really cool the way he does it. But anyway, not important. Let's continue on. So this is Preludes and Nocturnes. So Sandman is about this being, I guess you would call him. He's the personification of dream. So they call him Morpheus, but he's the personification of dreams. And he's one of the 7 endless. So there are 7 endless. There's dream, death, destruction, desire, destiny, delirium, and destruction, desire, death, delirium, and I say destiny? Dream, death, desire, delirium, destiny, despair. I think I missed despair. And one other one. I think I named all of them. But I don't know if I named them all in the same set of naming things. But anyway, you get the idea. So they're just the personification of these different things. So dream is the personification of dreams, and death is, of course, death, and destiny sort of has this big book and kind of writes the future of, either writes what has happened or what's going to happen. I don't remember. Anyway, but this comic book is primarily about Dream, so sort of his adventures. So the comic book has a lot of myth in it. So it has a lot of, say, Greek myth and biblical myth. There's a lot of Shakespeare in it. So the fairies, for example, from Midsummer Night's Dream. So this first trade paperback is like I said, the first 8 comics in the series. And I believe the original story was Sandman, or Dream, was captured by this dude who was trying to capture death because he wanted to live forever. But he captured Dream accidentally instead. And so Dream had to escape. And when he got back to his dream realm, some of his things were missing. So he had to go retrieve them. And one of the things that he had to retrieve was his helmet, which was in hell. So he had to go down to hell to retrieve his helmet, and had a confrontation with Lucifer. So, like I said, it's got a lot of biblical stuff in it. So I wanted to show you this. So this is Lucifer in the story. And from what I read, I believe this version of Lucifer was fashioned after David Bowie physically. So I don't know if you can see the resemblance, but that's kind of cool. But his character, this Lucifer character, ends up leaving hell, giving Dream the keys to hell, and taking off. And there was also a comic book based on Lucifer, called Lucifer. And a TV show is based off of that comic book. I don't know if it's still in production or not. I've seen the first few seasons. I don't know if it's still running, but you may have seen the TV show. So that TV show is based off of this character. But of course, the character in the TV show doesn't look anything like David Bowie or like this version of Lucifer here. But anyway, so cool backstory. So there's some hell, visions of hell there. And I don't quite know what happens at the end of this particular story, but so that's the first trade paperback. So I have a bunch, so I'm just gonna kind of run through these. I don't know if they're in order or not. So here's Season of Mists. I don't remember which stories are in which trade paperbacks anymore, but like I said, there's Lucifer again. Like I said, they're based a lot in mythology, so I know it talks about the story of Orpheus in here. It has some of the muses, like Calliope. A lot of gods and goddesses are in this comic book. So I think the idea is that the gods and goddesses exist, and they exist so long as people pray to them and believe in them. I think is the story. I don't really remember. Oh, here's some more hell stuff, some more Lucifer stuff. It's a lot of fun. So that's Season of Mists. Here's Dream Country. Oh wow, what is this? I don't know what this is in the back. Looks like a screenplay or something. Oh, it's just it's a description of the comic. Oh, it's weird. Okay, I don't know what that is. That's interesting. I don't know. Oh, there's Death. There's Death. So Death is a girl. And the aesthetic of this series was very gothy. So you could see Death looks very gothy, and she wears an ankh around her neck. And Dream is also looks pretty gothy too. The rest of the Endless, I don't know so much that they do. I know Destiny wears like a big hood, and Delirium looks kind of punky. She was actually fashioned after Tori Amos. Her look, her character too. And yeah, here's Midsummer Night's Dream stuff, Shakespeare stuff. Okay. And here's the Doll's House. So I have this little thing stuck here, so I know where to line up the comics. I'm hoping everything is in frame very well. Doll's House, and again, I don't really remember all of the plots, but I think this guy, if I'm not mistaken, there was this guy who decided, I don't know, back in hundreds of years ago, decided that he didn't want to die, and Death was amused by this and decided not to take him. So he just ended up living for hundreds of years. Forget his name, it starts with an H, I think. So this is a Vertigo title, and Vertigo is a subsidiary, I don't know what the name is for it, an offshoot of DC Comics. So it's part of DC Comics, but it's kind of, they do more adult, darker titles, so not so much the superhero stuff. So there's a Doll's House, A Game of You, and these pages feel very pulpy. They're not super high quality pages here, but I think some of the later ones are nicer. Game of You, Fables and Reflections. Maybe there's some nudity in some of this stuff. I'm hoping I don't get in trouble by flipping past the nudity. I'm sorry. Hoping it's not too explicit. Oh, there's Destruction. That's what I might have missed. Destruction. That's one of the Endless, the guy with the beard. He is Destruction. He's a very jovial fellow. However, he's not how you would think Destruction is. Oh, here's the story of the Song of Orpheus. So this is sort of retelling the Orpheus story of when he travels to the underworld. Anyway, there's that. Oh, and there's Desire. So there's Desire, and that's Delirium, and that's Despair, and that's Destiny. Not Destiny, I'm sorry, Destruction. Destiny is over here. I don't know if it's in frame or not. I apologize if I'm not getting all of this in frame. Okay, Fables and Reflections. Brief Lives. Just gonna flip through. Yeah, there's Dream on the left of the table, and Delirium in the middle, and Destruction on the right there. Okay, just gonna kind of go through the rest of these really quick. So World's End. Here's some of the hardbacks, which are really nice. So here's the kindly ones. Kindly ones. And again, I don't remember the stories for a lot of these. It's been like 20 years since I've read these, so kindly ones. The Dream Hunters, which is really beautiful. So I think it's this is more of a storybook style rather than a comic book style. Yeah, so it's got these paintings and then just a regular narrative story, but it's a really pretty story. So it's really, really pretty. Stacking all of these on my lap. I'm hoping they don't tumble over. This is The Wake, so this is also a really pretty copy that we have. The Wake. Oh, there's Destiny. Yeah, I remember the art. Oh, a little nudity here. I'm going to block that. The art in this one is really pretty. There's Desire on the right there. And there's Delirium, Despair. Yeah, the art in this one is really, really pretty. Okay, there's that one. And this is the one that was recently published. I don't think I've read it yet. I think we just bought it because it was like, oh, a new Sandman, but then I don't think we read it. Endless Nights. See if I can find the publication date. 2013. I can't read it. It's kind of far away from me to see it. Yeah, this stuff doesn't look familiar. I don't think I read it. I need to. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. All right, I'll just close this. All right, so that's all of our Sandman. So let me put this up and then grab the next batch for you. So this is sort of part of the same series, but Neil Gaiman wrote a few comics that were dedicated to the character of Death, who's part of the Endless. So this is one of the Death trade paperbacks. Death is probably the most popular character aside from Dream. She's the personification of death, and she takes everyone once they die. But she's like just this really cool girl. Like she's very kind and just the kind of girl you just want to hang out with. So, there's Death. Oh, and here's the other Death. So there's Tori Amos right there. Kind of cool. Which is kind of weird because it's actually Delirium who's fashioned after Tori Amos. So there's Death. That's a really pretty illustration of her. That's a really pretty one. Okay, those are the two Death comics. Okay, I'm gonna go grab some more. Okay, so here is our volume 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I am a big Buffy fan, but I'm ashamed to say that we bought these, but I haven't yet read it. In my defense, however, I think we only recently bought this, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I will. So the comic books of Buffy are basically meant to be a continuation of the series. So it's actually either co-written or overseen by Joss Whedon, who of course wrote the original, or wrote the series, that is. So it's supposed to be official canon. So like the first collection of comics is supposed to basically be season 8 of the series. So yeah, I do need to read these. So we have volume 1, and then we have a few other trade paperbacks. But I don't know where they are and what these are in the order of things. Wolves at the Gate, I'm not sure what that is. Again, I haven't read it. But A Long Way Home is another one I haven't really read. So cool. I need to read them, but I like this cover a lot. Okay, so let me go get some more. So next up is our Strangers in Paradise collection. So this is a really, really cool comic. It's written and illustrated by Terry Moore. I forget when these came out. I'm thinking the 90s. Maybe the early aughts. I'm not sure. I don't remember now. But I read these back in the day. I haven't really read them since. Let's see, who publishes this? Is it Dark Horse? I don't remember now. Who published Strangers in Paradise? The plot of this series is kind of hard to explain, but there's Francine and Kachu and their friends, their best friends, and David? I think David is the name of this character. But these two girls are best friends, and Kachu, the blonde, she is a lesbian, I believe, or bisexual, I don't remember. But she used to be a prostitute, I believe, and used to be part of a crime syndicate ring or something. Somehow involved in crime. But anyway, they're best friends, and Kachu is in love with Francine, but Francine has just a terrible time with men. So she's not really in love with Kachu. She's mostly, I think, heterosexual. I don't really remember. Or bisexual. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, Kachu's in love with Francine. Francine has a fiance, or had a fiance, that was a jerk to her. And then there's David, who is in love with Kachu. So this little love triangle. And then somehow the crime that Kachu used to be involved in sort of comes back to haunt her somehow. So they get involved in all this crime stuff again. So the plot sounds kind of weird, but it's mostly about the relationship between these characters and their development. And it's really beautifully done. As you can see, it has this very unusual art, this kind of black and white line drawing, which is nice. My husband is really a big fan of Terry Moore's art. So it's a really cool series. So this is volume 1. And again, I don't know if these are in order. This is I Dream of You. And the cover art that he did for the series is really cool. I love the covers for these. I read an article posted a couple years ago that said that they were going to make a movie of Strangers in Paradise, but I haven't really heard anything since, so I don't know if they're still going to. It's a Good Life. Oh, that is Francine's ex-fiance person. Look at this really jerky guy. And here's Love Me Tender. Yeah, I love the way he drew Francine. She's such a trip. It's really beautifully done. The art and the characters and the writing and all of it. I need to do another read of this stuff. Enemies. I'm just going to kind of quickly flip through these because there's a couple at the end that I do want to show you. Powder Flame. The colors are really beautiful too here. But I have a couple of signed copies here. So this high school is signed inside front cover. I don't know. I'm not going to pull it out because I don't want to ruin it. Well, I won't ruin it, but I'd rather not pull this one out since it's signed. Signed inside front cover. And this is another one that's signed. You can see his signature right there. And I think this one also has a certificate of authenticity here. So that's cool. I don't know if this is worth anything or not, but I'm really glad that I have it. So, Homage Comics. I've never heard of them. But anyway, I guess there are people that publish this. Won the Eisner Award. Cool. There you go. So that's my Strangers in Paradise. So let me get the next set of stuff. Sorry if that was loud, I just dropped my mic. Might have to edit that out. Okay. So here is my Stardust collection. So this, I believe, is how it was originally published. So it came out in a set of four comics, and I don't really think they're actually comic books per se because it's mostly just sort of an illustrated story. But I'll pull this one out and show it to you. So, like I had mentioned earlier, this story was made into a movie, which you might have seen. It's got of course I'm lost the name again. That one chick who I can't think of the name. Anyway, she's a pretty famous actor. And then the guy, whose name I also cannot remember, but he was the guy who played Daredevil in the TV show. And he was super young in this movie. But it's a good movie if you haven't seen it. It came out, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago or something. So as you can see, it's not really a comic book. It's more of just an illustrated story. Charles Vess, I think, is the illustrator. But it's really good. Okay, so my battery ran out of my camera, so I'm coming back to you and finishing this video up again. I went through the whole thing and then at the very end realized I didn't catch half of it, so having to re-record. Sorry about that. So where was I? I think I was telling you about the plot of this story, Stardust. So the basic plot behind the story is there's this kid, this boy. Where'd he go? I just had him. There he is. He's half fairy and half human. He doesn't know his mother. His mother left him on the doorstep of his father's house, I believe. Anyway, but he's in love with this girl, but she's not very nice. That's the girl he's in love with. She's not very nice, but he tries to woo her anyway. And she sort of teasingly asks him to retrieve a falling star that had fallen while they were watching And he takes her seriously and decides to go into the fairy world and retrieve this fallen star for her and bring it back to her. Oh, actually, that wasn't the kid, sorry. That was his father, anyway. So he decides to go into the fairy world and retrieve the star for her. And when he finds the star, he discovers that it's actually a person, a woman, a girl. And so he captures her and starts to drag her back with him, because he's still going to bring this star back to the girl that he loves. So as he's bringing her back to his world, they run into all sorts of adventures. There are these witches that are also after the star because apparently the star can give them eternal life, and there's like some kings or something that are after her as well. Not kings, but princes trying to be king. So there are all these people after the star, and he eventually falls in love with her, and yeah, so it's a good story. So this is the star. I forget what her name is in the series, but that's her. This is actually the fourth one. Here's the third one. That's the third one. So it's really good. And I think, like I mentioned, this is the original series that came out. I think it was also made into novel form as well. But I think I bought these when they first came out. They also came out with this cool mobile. You punch out the pieces and you make a mobile that you can hang up, and I think I got rid of that. I'm very sad. I wish I'd kept it in its original shape, in its original form, because that would have been nice to have. But anyway, so that's Stardust. Okay. Next series I want to show you is Books of Magic. So this is another series that was written by Neil Gaiman, or at least this first paperback was written by Neil Gaiman, and then the series continued, but the remaining series it had various authors, not Neil Gaiman, but this one's my favorite. This first collection, the first few issues were really, really good. The art is beautiful and the story was really good. So, oh, I'm so sorry, that was loud. But the basic idea, the basic storyline in this is there's a boy, and he's destined to become a powerful magician. Here he is over here. And I think this story, he's visited by these various people who are supposed to tell him about his gifts and kind of guide him. Sort of like a, can't think of the name of them. Crap. Ebenezer Scrooge, sort of like that. These different people come to him and guide him. Anyway, so there is a bad guy in here. Where is he? Where's the bad guy? And I forget what he ends up doing to Timothy Hunter's the name of the person, the name of the kid. I forget what the bad guy ends up doing, but the bad guy, whose name I cannot remember, ends up getting punished at the end by death from the Sandman series. So they go way into the future somehow, and I forget what. I wish I remembered the plot better. They go way into the future, and they see. Oh, it was so good. I remember this now. This was so well done. Okay. They go into the future, and they end up seeing humans as what they become, and they're these weird gelatinous things. I wish I could find the photo now. These weird gelatinous people. Oh, there they are. There's the human beings, what will become like thousands of years in the future. And then they go even further forward, and all that's left are archetypes, like these weird archetypes hanging around. So there's the Fool, like from the tarot deck. And that's all that's left in the far future. And I forget what that bad guy does, or what he tries to do. See, there's like the Hierophant. But he gets punished at the end, so the bad guy gets defeated, and he's punished by death. So they're way like thousands and thousands of years into the future, and death sends him back to the past, moment by moment. So he has to step one step at a time and back into the past, back to where he came from. So he has to travel all these millennia back to where he came from, step by step, and that's his punishment. So it was so well done. It's so good. It's a really good story. So that's the first trade paperback. And then I don't know if these are in order, but this is Summonings, and then here is Reckonings. And what's kind of interesting about this is that at least superficially, Timothy Hunter looks a lot like Harry Potter, and this was before Harry Potter. So he's like this British kid with glasses, destined to become like this incredible magician. And he goes on all these adventures, and I think he even has an owl at one point, like Harry Potter does. So superficially, he looks a lot like Harry Potter, but the storyline is quite different. So he doesn't go to like a wizarding school or anything like that. But superficially, he does look a lot like Harry Potter. It was a really good series, so I forget how long this comic book series went on, but I read it for a while. I don't know what happened to my original comic books that I had of Books of Magic, but it was very good. So I saved my favorite for last. So this is Moonshadow. This is my favorite trade paperback. I forget when this came out. I imagine in the 90s, because that's when I was reading comic books. Complete Moonshadow by John Mark DeMatteis. I don't really know who this is. I only know about him writing this one thing. I haven't really kept up with anything else he's written. But it's illustrated by John J. Muth. Now, John J. Muth is a very prolific artist. I also have a children's book that he wrote. I think he wrote and illustrated it, called Zen Shorts. He might have written some other ones too. But he does really beautiful watercolor work. So the art in here is really beautiful. So I'm going to flip through. I'm going to be a little careful because there's quite a bit of nudity in this paperback. So I'll try to be careful and not skip over the nude parts. But the art is really beautiful. So the general premise behind this story is, it starts off with this woman from the 60s. She's like a flower child. Let me see if I can find a picture of her. There she is. I forget her name in the story, but she ends up getting impregnated by these alien beings. They look like big balls of light, and they're either very powerful or omnipotent. I don't remember which, but they're very capricious and unpredictable, and they come and they impregnate her, and then they take her up. Oh, there's nudity. Oops. Said I would skip it, and then I didn't. But they take her up to this intergalactic zoo and kind of put her in this intergalactic zoo with all these other aliens, and she ends up giving birth to this boy. His name is she names him Moonshadow, and I think she eventually dies or something. But so this boy is stuck in this intergalactic zoo, and he makes friends with this creature named Ira. Let me see if I can find a picture of Ira. Where's Ira? I think there he is. That's Ira. See if I can find a better picture of him. He's like this little fuzzy character, and he's kind of a jerk. So he kind of looks like a Wookiee, but if Chewbacca read a lot of porn and farted a lot. That would be Ira. But Moonshadow befriends him because he's basically the only person that talks to him. So he befriends Ira, and they escape the intergalactic zoo, and then they go on all these adventures. And it's basically a coming of age story. So he grows from a boy to a man within the scope of this story, and learns all these lessons and yada yada yada. And it's really beautifully done. So by the end of it, I was in tears. It's just so haunting and kind of surreal and really beautiful. So if you like comic books, I highly suggest it. Suggest this one. It's very, very good. It's my favorite. It might be hard to find. I think you can still find it, like on Amazon and stuff. I think they still sell used copies of these, but they're a little pricey. I think like $40-50 or something, but it's really good. So this is my favorite one, Moonshadow. So those are all the trade paperbacks that I have. I used to have more single comics. I don't know where that box is, so I'm very sad that I can't find that box. I haven't been able to find it for a couple of years, but it had some books of magic in it, Dreaming, maybe some Lucifer. I was really into the Vertigo comics and stuff at the time, so I have a lot of that stuff. So I don't really read comics so much anymore. They're kind of too expensive, and I don't really have the time. But I used to read them a lot. So I hope you enjoyed my collection, and hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.